Have you been involved in a car accident or injured on the job and aren't sure where to turn or what to do? Todd Bresney of Kanoski Bresney is here to share his years of experience representing injury victims. You know, when your life is turned upside down by injury, too often you're left to navigate the unfortunate aftermath alone, while billion-dollar insurance companies sit back and do everything they can to protect their bottom line. But what if someone was out there that could help level the playing field? Well, today, I'm here with personal injury attorney, Mr. Todd Bresney, a man who's made it his mission to do just that, level the playing field. Welcome, sir. Thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. You know, accidents happen, but unfortunately, sometimes they happen due to carelessness and somebody's neglect, and most people simply don't know what to do when they find themselves in that situation. So what should someone do when they're injured because of someone else's carelessness?
That's a great question. You know, we live our lives, we don't plan on being hurt. We don't plan on having serious injuries. It's just that in a flash of a second, before you know it, you could lose everything. You could lose your ability to work, your ability to live, your ability to enjoy life. And the last thing they're thinking about are lawyers. But that's the first thing they should be thinking about right after they're hurt because of the careless or recklessness of somebody else.
That's really good information. And should, right after a person gets hurt, should they really start, even if they haven't reached out to a lawyer yet, start jotting down things to make sure that they have all the information appropriate, or you'll pull that out of them?
We pull that out of them, but I will say this, who's not waiting to talk to counsel or to hire counsel is the insurance industry. They've got lawyers on staff, they've got investigators on staff. From day one, they're going to start collecting evidence and making sure that they are building up a defense to your claim while you're even in the hospital.
Let's go back a little bit. I mean, what led you to want to be a personal injury attorney?
You know, it's like any popular culture references. When I was a child, I saw To Kill a Mockingbird, 12 Angry Men. Those things really kind of spurred me to think, well, maybe I could be an attorney. And ultimately, after law school, I went to Chicago. I got hired by a law firm that represented big insurance. So I was the bad guy for a number of years, and I was put into 2 jury trials a week for a number of years, and eventually my job was to keep verdicts under $30 million all over the country, if that tells you a little bit about those injuries.
So while working for the insurance companies, in a way, did you see some things that you didn't like, some things that didn't sit well with you?
Yes, there was one crucial case at one point of my career at that time, being a younger lawyer in Chicago. I was sent into federal court to try a case where a woman lost her life because a semi-operator ran a red light. And I described this woman to the my big insurance client at the time, as one miracle shy of sainthood, and she was an amazing person. And
kind of doing so to warn them that this is somebody you might not want to screw around with, right?
I told them we should settle this case. In fact, her lawyer, who's one of the better trial lawyers in Chicago at the time, called me up and made just a reasonable demand to settle the case. And I told them, take it. And with a snap of the fingers, they told me, try the case. I didn't understand it. I went in and tried it. Now, I told them the value of that verdict would have been about 2 times the offer. Now, they asked, of course, for much, much more. And sure enough, that verdict came back at almost exactly what I said it would be. And they could have given me a ticker tape parade. They were so happy. Why was the insurance company happy after paying me and paying twice the amount of the offer? And I couldn't wrap my arms around it, and I gave it some thought, and I looked into it. And once I realized why they had me try the case and why they deny, delay, underpay, or don't pay, that's when I decided to change sides.
And what were the reasons for wanting to do that in this particular case?
So one of the things you have to understand about big insurance is that, and Warren Buffett's a great example. Warren Buffett has been quoted to say one of the biggest money generators for Berkshire Hathaway has been insurance companies. And he, I believe, coined a term called float. And so insurance companies, they're the only industry where they can make money before they have to spend money. They collect hundreds of billions of dollars a year in premiums. Last year, the industry made close to $1 trillion in profits. And when they do is when they collect this money, before they have to pay it out, they invest it. So before paying any overhead or incurring any loss, they've invested money, they're making money.
They're getting dividends, they're getting...
That's right.
Right? Okay.
That's right.
Interest?
And that's the float. So what matters is not the losses. What matters is the time delay and the amounts that they can keep the payments low. And they just keep compounding that and making a lot of money.
What kind of clients does your firm like to represent?
We represent anybody who's had serious personal injuries because of the careless or recklessness of another. We represent people in big trucking cases, motorcycle cases, auto cases, obviously, nursing home malpractice, medical malpractice, products liability, and industrial accidents.
You mentioned a term earlier. You made this phrase, delay, deny, underpay.
Yes.
Talk about some of the tactics that they use to do that.
Yes. So the first thing is that there's a couple tactics pre-suit. Pre-suit is where an adjuster might just constantly be nice and talk to somebody and wait until they're done treating, but you've got 2 years in the state of Illinois to file a lawsuit to preserve your rights. And a lot of times people think that the adjuster's going to be on their side, and they're not. That 2 years stops. Once that 2 years is up, they'll never get a return phone call. Yeah. Another method that they do is they employ lawyers. They'll come in after a lawsuit's been filed, and those lawyers will take 2 to 3 years to litigate the case. And the lawyers will do everything and they can to try and make an argument to a jury that my client was at fault, or that they weren't healthy, or they had something called pre-existing conditions, which isn't a defense in Illinois. You want to know why?
Why?
Well, because in Illinois, we know that it's not a defense that you may have your own personal challenges in health. So what does that mean? Somebody who's in their 80s, who are in their golden years, life is worth less than somebody who's 5 or 6 or 10. They're not. So it's not a defense to say, well, that person has had this injury or that person has suffered from this. You don't get a free, get out of jail free card just because you happen to harm somebody who has other challenges.
How do they assess these values? You have a tagline of something like, we get your worth.
Yes.
How does somebody assess another person's worth? I mean, let's say, I get in a car accident and it's because I'm sitting in a red light and the truck runs in the back of me and prohibits me from, coming here to host this show.
Yeah.
And maybe it stops me for the next 6 or 7 months. Who's going to determine what the value is of what I could have made during that 6-month period of time?
Well, I'll tell you, insurance determines that, but that's not the law. The law is that we have a right to a constitutional right, a 7th Amendment right under Illinois state and federal constitutions to a jury of our peers, right to a jury trial. And so our community is supposed to decide that. But insurance companies, they use algorithms, they use, fancy AI probably generations now to try and figure out how much they can get away with paying, which is different than the value of our lives. Listen, we've got two assets in our lives that we have that are priceless: our health, right, and our time. And both those things are affected when somebody wants to check their Facebook page instead of watching out the front windshield, or money for a corporation who doesn't lock out and tag out electricity, and they send their workers in who get in an industrial type of situation, or semi-drivers who decide that they're going to not sleep when they should and get on the road anyway to make some more money. So all these things are money drivers, right?
Is it kind of a balance between the value of those mistakes and my personal value? You know what I'm saying?
I do.
Because again, I go back to this question, if, I or anybody else who hosts a television show,
right,
you get wiped out and can't go to work for 4 or 5, 6 months.
Absolutely.
There's value to that. And not just the hours of my employment, but all the missed opportunities that I've had to promote myself.
In Illinois, using your hypothetical, in Illinois, you're entitled to wage losses, which is just a small percentage of what our true value is, right? But the insurance industry wants to focus on wages. But in Illinois, we're entitled to pain and suffering, loss of a normal life, grief and sorrow when we lose a loved one. All those things. Listen, people can judge me if they want and how I choose to live my life. But the law says I have the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And if somebody takes that away from me, that's invaluable. And I think as a culture, we don't put enough weight or money on our lives, on our time, on our health, and we should.
You know, most people think law firms just have a bunch of lawyers, but you have a big team behind you, right? You have doctors, life planners, and things like that. Talk
Yes.
a little bit about the team that supports you.
Yeah, well, first off, you know, I've got an amazing staff of trial lawyers, many of who have worked on the wrong side of the fence for big insurance before, great paralegals who support our clients. And then on top of that, we use what's called accident reconstruction scientists who go out to the scenes within days of the collision to try and collect this evidence that will be destroyed by weather or even by the big insurance. We have doctors that tell us when there's a good chance of winning a medical malpractice. Those are very difficult cases. Nursing home experts. We use life care planners. Now, life care planners are people that specialize in, hey, what is the medicine that you're going to need in the future? Because we can't wait your entire life. We have to have evidence of what it's going to cost to take care of you because of the harm that was caused to you by the negligence of another.
Can you share a story about maybe a client that you've worked with who, you know, the system kind of tried to turn their back on them and you helped them get through it?
Yes, absolutely. In fact, one in particular I think that applies to what we've been talking about today. I had a truck driver who lived out in a farm area, and he was a cross-the-country truck driver, and he was in the bay sleeping while his partner was driving, and another truck driver had pulled over on the side of the road in the middle of the night, probably to sleep, but had not pulled over all the way. As a consequence, the two trucks collided, and my client's truck ended up in a flame ball, like a ball of flame on the roadway. He crawled himself to safety through fire. He was horrifically burned, 80% of his body. He was awake, he was conscious, but no one survives that for long, and he didn't. In a few hours, he was gone. And the insurance company, it being a smaller trucking company, only had $1 million. And I say that, only $1 million. We go back to his wages. Truck drivers making $100,000 a year. In 10 years, that's $1 million. 20 years, that's $2 million. Again, that's nothing compared to the life with his family that he lost and what they've lost. It's nothing compared to the pain and the suffering of these horrific burns. So I was hired when the insurance company did not knock on the door like they used to in the olden days, the next day and say, here's the money, we're sorry for your loss. I was hired and I immediately talked to their lawyers and I said, write them a check. Why do you even need me? I don't even want to get paid in this case. It's not enough. And they refused. They didn't give me an explanation, but they forced me to file in federal court. It was in a different state. And after significant litigation, found out there was more money that they hid from this woman. And we got it all, ultimately.
That's great.
Yeah.
Look, I mean, I'm so proud. I mean, I'm proud of your company for the fact that you do so many giveaway, or not giveaway, but you give back. You know, Kanoski Bresney has a program, a scholarship program. Is that right?
Yes,
And
yes.
you provide scholarships for students going to college to teach them about distracted driving?
Yep.
Explain this to us.
So 4 years ago, and I've been doing this for almost 30 years now, and I'll tell you, I'm just sick and tired of seeing people catastrophically maimed or killed because we can't stay off those supercomputers we all carry in our pockets while we drive. Especially the younger crew, you know, the teens. You know, TikTok's not that important when you're driving a 3,500-pound automobile or 5,000-pound SUV. The fact of the matter is these are killing machines and we have to stay focused on what we're doing. I decided, in addition to trying to proliferate this safety through what we do and to change each bad actor's methods from driving going forward, but also try and proliferate the information, the dangers associated with distracted driving. So what we did is we offer a scholarship for college-bound children. If they write a paper on how distracted driving has affected their lives, you'd be amazed at how many submissions I get a year.
I bet.
Yeah, yeah. So we've been doing that for 4 years now, and we help pay for kids' college funds.
You also have a philanthropic program where you give out helmets to kids for bicycle safety, is that right?
Yes, yes. So one of the injuries that we see a lot of now is brain injuries. They're horrible, they're silent, you can't necessarily see them on the outside. But what we also know is that when a child suffers a brain injury, whether it be a minor concussion on up to major head injury, that will have a profound effect on the development of their brain. And so what we've been doing since 2001 is handing out bicycle helmets to children for free between the ages of 5 and 10, and hopefully they'll wear them and get in the habit of wearing them as they move forward in life.
You're a pretty big firm. You've got multiple locations in Illinois and Iowa, right? How many?
Yes, we practice in Illinois and Iowa. Our locations are about 9 total at this point. We practice throughout the state of Illinois, some in Iowa, and I'll tell you that we've been doing this since 1978.
Wow. You know, our viewers at home, there's probably somebody sitting there right now watching the screen who just had an accident. They're struggling. They don't know what to do. They don't know where to turn. Well, I mean, what would you tell them to do?
I would tell them as soon as they can think about it, so they don't have to worry about protecting themselves and collecting evidence, but as soon as they're able, they should reach out to a competent trial lawyer. Not just a lawyer that advertises personal injury, but one that only does that and has experience being in a courtroom. And then and only then will they be fairly represented.
Todd, one of the things I've been so impressed by Kanoski Bresney for is the fact that you don't just stop when you, say, win a settlement for a client. You go back and make sure that if there are things that can maybe in that lawsuit could help others from not falling into the same pitfalls that could need to be corrected from an administrative standpoint, from a general practice standpoint of the company that you're working against, you actually try to set those things right?
Safety in our community helps everybody. And so that's part of the lawsuit. Part of the purpose of making a claim and going forward isn't just to get full and fair compensation for the client, it's to correct bad behaviors.
Got it.
So I'll give you an example. We've had cases where we've had municipalities change the way that they lifeguard people. We've had them clean up their swimming facilities that were dangerous. And again, they would never have done that, and they hadn't done that for decades until somebody lost their life and a lawsuit was filed. We've had companies put crosswalks down where they knew people were crossing in a dangerous area, and it took a child who got hit before they would do that. We've had companies put up fall protection devices that they should have had in the 90s. So for 20 years, they didn't do it because there were no sanctions against them by the federal government. Then they did that to protect the people that needed them the most.
You said municipalities, so in places where, let's say, there's not a stop sign or there's something that the municipality should have done that could have prevented accidents from happening, you will go and, unfortunately, you have to legislate against them, right?
Well, I always say the king can do no wrong, which is sovereign immunity, is no more in Illinois. You can bring lawsuits against municipalities. Unfortunately, they are limited to only reckless claims. So when there's something that they carelessly or consciously did, they consciously disregarded the safety of others. That's a little higher standard, just a little bit higher than carelessness. Okay? It's not intentional, but they knew something and they ignored it and did it anyway. And that's what is the standard against municipalities in Illinois.
It's a bold new world out here right now when you're talking about things like, all this new AI where we have self-driving cars and you got robots on the street. A couple weeks ago, I was literally walking down the street in front of my house, and where I live, there's a lot of this robot food delivery. So these little things are running around all over, and I was looking at this lady who was walking down the street up ahead of me, and a robot was behind her, and a robot was coming at her. And they were coming at her kind of quick, and it scared the devil out of her. She was like, ah! And she tripped and fell, and I thought to myself, that's a lawsuit right there, baby.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, if she hurt herself seriously. The problem with those robots and the automation that we're seeing with AI and so on and so forth is they're applying them to bigger vehicles as well. And I had a daughter who just started at University of Arizona, and she videotaped herself and her friend getting one of these self-automated taxis, and it pulled against a red light into a very busy traffic intersection. And they were screaming, and they videotaped it, and we're gonna see more and more of this. And the question is who's at fault? What corporations are running these things? In your example, if they had knocked her off and she had broken a hip when she fell, and the robot took off because it's not gonna stop, how's she gonna prove who owned it, who controlled it, what they did?
Right. And is it not the responsibility of the municipality that licensed that thing to ride down its streets? I mean, at some point in time, not necessarily?
No. Really? Like I said, there's a lot of immunities against municipalities. That's a question, and it's one that hasn't come up yet, hasn't been decided by the courts, but it will. But I think that the more poignant case would be against the corporations that earn money off of making these things automated. They should built in the safety factor.
So Todd, if people wanted more information, where would they go?
kbinjurylaw.com.
kbinjurylaw.com. Thank you so much, sir, for
Thank
being
you,
a part of the show
Montel.
today. Don't forget it, kbinjurylaw.com. And of course, if you want other information, you can go to our website, thebalancingact.com. Thanks for joining us on The Balancing Act. We'll see you next time.